Picture this. A shopkeeper in Cambodia prices his goods in dollars. A banker in London holds billions in dollar reserves. An oil executive in Saudi Arabia sells his crude oil, priced exclusively in American currency. None of these people live in the United States, yet they're all dependent on a piece of paper printed in Washington, D.C. That rectangle of green paper isn't just currency. It's a weapon. It's a trap. It's the most successful con job in human history. And every single person watching this video right now is caught inside it. Most people think the dollar dominates because America has the biggest economy or the most gold. That's not why. The real reason the US dollar controls the planet has nothing to do with economic strength and everything to do with two calculated moves that trapped the entire world into a system they can't escape. This is the untold story of how America built a financial empire without firing a single shot. This is how the dollar conquered Earth. I'm David, and this is Shadow of Money. Let's rewind to 1944. Europe is burning. Asia is devastated. Tens of millions are dead. The world's financial system has collapsed into chaos. For centuries, global trade depended on gold, or currencies backed by gold. Britain's pound sterling ruled international commerce, backed by the largest empire ever assembled. But now Britain is broke, France is shattered, Germany is in ruins, Japan is destroyed. The old order is dead, and someone needs to build a new one. Enter the United States. While other nations count their dead, America counts its gold. The U.S. emerges from World War II holding roughly 70% of the world's monetary gold reserves. American factories are intact and running full speed. The U.S. economy represents over half of global economic output. No nation in history has ever held this much relative power. The United States doesn't waste this moment. In July 1944, while bombs still fall in Europe, delegates from 44 nations gather in a New Hampshire mountain resort called Bretton Woods. They're there to design a new global financial architecture. Britain sends its greatest economist, John Maynard Keynes. He proposes a neutral international currency called the Bancor, managed by a global institution. No single nation would dominate. America sends a different message. The American delegation, led by Harry Dexter White, presents an alternative. The US dollar becomes the anchor of everything. All other currencies fix their value to the dollar, and the dollar fixes to gold at $35 per ounce. Any country can exchange their dollars for gold whenever they want. Why would anyone accept this? Because America holds all the leverage. Every nation at that conference needs American money to rebuild. They need American loans. They need access to American markets. The alternative is economic isolation and collapse. The deal is signed. The dollar becomes the foundation of global finance. Here's what this system really meant. To trade internationally, you needed dollars. To get dollars, you had to sell goods to America or exchange your currency through the dollar. The Federal Reserve in Washington essentially became the central bank for planet Earth. This created something unprecedented. America could run trade deficits year after year. When the U.S. imported more than it exported, those excess dollars flowed overseas. Other countries then had to hold those dollars or invest them back into American assets. It was a circular system that let America borrow from the world indefinitely. For 27 years, this golden arrangement worked. American power seemed permanent. The promise was simple. Your dollars are safe because we'll give you gold for them anytime you ask. But promises made in times of strength get tested in times of weakness. By the late 1960s, reality is catching up with America. The Vietnam War is bleeding the treasury. Massive domestic spending programs are expensive. The U.S. government is printing dollars faster than its gold supply can support. Basic arithmetic shows the lie. There are 4 times as many dollars circulating globally as there is gold in Fort Knox. Smart countries notice this math problem immediately. France, led by Charles de Gaulle, starts demanding gold for its dollar holdings. Switzerland follows. Other nations begin lining up. America's gold reserves start draining at an alarming rate. If this continues, Fort Knox will be empty within months. In early August 1971, Britain asks for $3 billion worth of gold to be transferred from Fort Knox to New York. That would be nearly 15% of remaining reserves gone in a single transaction. President Richard Nixon faces an impossible choice: honor the promise and watch America's gold disappear, or break the agreement and destroy the dollar's credibility. Either option looks like disaster. On August 13, 1971, Nixon secretly flies his top economic advisors to Camp David. For 3 days, they plan their move. Treasury Secretary John Connally, Federal Reserve Chairman Arthur Burns, and future Federal Chairman Paul Volcker all participate in what would become the most important financial decision of the 20th century. On Sunday, August 15, 1971, when financial markets are closed, Nixon goes on national television. He announces that the United States will no longer exchange dollars for gold. The gold window is closed, effective immediately. He calls it temporary. It's been 54 years. It was never temporary. By every conventional economic theory, this should have destroyed the dollar. Without gold backing, the dollar became what's called a fiat currency, paper backed by nothing except government decree and promises. Countries could now float their currencies freely. The system that made the dollar essential had just been shattered. The dollar should have crashed. Inflation should have exploded. Other currencies should have risen to challenge American dominance. Every expert predicted disaster. Instead, something bizarre happened. The dollar got stronger. October 1973, the Arab members of OPEC, which is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, impose an oil embargo on nations supporting Israel. Within months, oil prices quadruple from about $3 per barrel to over $12. Gas stations run dry. Lines of cars stretch for miles. Western economies grind toward paralysis. The crisis reveals America's vulnerability. The modern world runs on oil, and hostile nations control the supply. But Henry Kissinger, Nixon's Secretary of State, sees something else. He sees leverage. Kissinger understands that if America can't back the dollar with gold anymore, it needs to back it with something everyone needs even more. He needs to make the dollar necessary for survival itself. He finds his answer in Saudi Arabia. In 1974, Kissinger makes a secret journey to Riyadh. The details of these negotiations won't be fully revealed for over 40 years. He sits down with the Saudi royal family, and he makes them an offer engineered to perfection. The Saudis have oil, oceans of it, but they're surrounded by enemies. The Soviet Union threatens from the north. Revolutionary movements threaten from within. Iran is hostile. They have wealth, but no way to protect it. Kissinger offers them something priceless: absolute military protection from the United States, the most advanced weapon systems on Earth, training for their military, a guarantee that as long as America exists, the House of Saud will be protected from any threat, internal or external. The price? 2 conditions. First, Saudi Arabia must price all oil exports exclusively in US dollars, not pounds, not yen, not francs, only dollars. If anyone wants Saudi oil, they need American currency. Second, the Saudis must take their massive oil profits and recycle them back into the United States by buying treasury bonds and investing in American assets. Their oil wealth would be loaned back to the U.S. government. Think about what this creates. Oil is the most essential commodity in modern civilization. It powers transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, military operations, everything. Every nation on Earth needs it continuously. By forcing all oil purchases into dollars, Kissinger created permanent, structural, global demand for American currency. It doesn't matter what the U.S. economy does. It doesn't matter how much money the Federal Reserve prints. As long as the world runs on oil, the world must hold dollars. By 1975, the entire OPEC cartel follows Saudi Arabia's lead. The petrodollar system is born. This wasn't just clever, it was revolutionary. America replaced gold with something better: energy. Gold sits in vaults. Energy makes civilization run. Kissinger had weaponized human need itself. The petrodollar system gave America powers that no empire had ever possessed. The U.S. could run massive budget deficits because other countries needed to buy treasury bonds to recycle their oil revenues. This kept American interest rates artificially low. The U.S. could print trillions of dollars without triggering currency collapse because global oil demand created dollar demand. And most importantly, it created a weapon. If America doesn't like what a country is doing, Washington can cut them off from the dollar-based financial system. No dollars means no oil. No oil means economic death. This gave the United States the power to sanction, isolate, and economically strangle any nation on the planet. But every system built on force eventually faces resistance. The petrodollar system doesn't just run on agreements, it runs on consequences for those who try to escape. In the year 2000, Iraq's Saddam Hussein announces that Iraq will no longer accept dollars for its oil. He demands payment in euros instead. This is a direct challenge to the petrodollar system. 3 years later, the United States invades Iraq, overthrows Hussein's government, and executes him. One of the first actions of the new Iraqi government? Switching oil sales back to dollars. Libya's Muammar Gaddafi begins developing plans for a gold-backed African currency to bypass the dollar in oil transactions. In 2011, NATO forces support rebels who overthrow and kill Gaddafi. The plans for an alternative currency die with him. These aren't coincidences, they're warnings. The petrodollar system is protected by the most powerful military in human history. Any leader who seriously threatens dollar dominance finds themselves labeled a threat to international stability. But the real challenge to dollar dominance won't come from individual dictators. It'll come from the rise of alternative power centers. The American-Saudi relationship that created the petrodollar is weakening. America's fracking revolution transformed the U.S. from the world's largest oil importer into a major producer. America no longer desperately needs Saudi oil. This changes the power dynamic. The Saudis watch as America makes deals with Iran, their regional enemy. They see American politicians criticizing Saudi human rights policies. They realize the protection guarantee might not be permanent. Meanwhile, China has become the world's largest importer of oil. Beijing is Saudi Arabia's biggest customer, and China wants to pay in yuan, not dollars. For years, quiet negotiations have occurred between China and Saudi Arabia about pricing some oil in yuan instead of dollars. These talks represent an existential threat to American financial dominance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS nations, have been building alternative financial infrastructure. After the U.S. froze Russia's dollar reserves following the Ukraine invasion, every country realized the danger. Washington can reach into your national treasury and delete your savings with a mouse click. This triggered what's called de-dollarization. Central banks around the world are buying gold at record levels. Countries are negotiating bilateral trade agreements in local currencies. The share of global reserves held in dollars has declined from 72% in 2001 to approximately 58% today. It's not a collapse, but it's erosion, and erosion eventually becomes collapse. If the petrodollar system fails, the American way of life changes overnight. The ability to run trillion-dollar deficits disappears. Interest rates spike as foreign countries stop buying treasury bonds. The cost of imported goods explodes as the dollar weakens. Everything from electronics to clothing to food becomes drastically more expensive. The government faces a choice between cutting spending by 30 to 40% or raising taxes to levels that would trigger social chaos. The cheap debt that funded America's consumption economy for 50 years evaporates. This isn't speculation, it's arithmetic. The entire American standard of living is built on the foundation of other countries being forced to hold and use dollars. We're watching this play out in real time. Saudi Arabia is joining BRICS organizations and getting closer to China and Russia. They're signaling to the world that American dominance is ending. They're preparing for a post-dollar world while maintaining just enough cooperation with Washington to avoid immediate consequences. The Saudis learned well from Henry Kissinger. They're using the same cold calculation he used in 1974. They're playing both sides, extracting maximum benefit and preparing to switch allegiance when the moment is right. Despite all these challenges, the dollar remains supreme. As of 2024, it represents 58% of global foreign exchange reserves. Roughly 88% of all foreign exchange transactions involve the dollar. About half of international trade is invoiced in dollars. The dollar has network effects. Everyone uses it because everyone else uses it. American financial markets are the deepest and most liquid on Earth. No other currency combines the necessary scale, stability, and global trust to replace it. The euro lacks political unity. China's yuan is restricted by capital controls and government manipulation. Digital currencies are speculative experiments. Gold is impractical for modern electronic commerce. But network effects aren't permanent. The British pound once dominated global commerce. The Spanish dollar before that, the Dutch guilder before that. Reserve currencies last for decades, maybe a century. Then they fall. The dollar doesn't dominate because America has the best economy or the most gold. It dominates because in 1944, America trapped the world in a system centered on dollars. And in 1974, Henry Kissinger made that system inescapable by tying it to oil. Every time you buy gas, every time you see an oil price, every time you hear about treasury bonds or currency reserves, you're watching the legacy of these two decisions play out. The dollar is the ultimate manifestation of too big to fail. The entire global economy is built around it. Unwinding it would be catastrophic for everyone. But history shows that empires don't last. Financial systems don't last. The question isn't whether the dollar will eventually lose its dominance. The question is when and what comes after. Will it be a gradual, managed transition or a sudden, catastrophic collapse? Will China's yuan replace the dollar? Will we return to gold? Will some new system emerge that we can't even imagine yet? The American century was built on a currency backed first by gold, then by oil, and finally by pure faith. That faith is being tested right now. The cracks are showing. The alternatives are forming. What you're holding in your wallet isn't money. It's a piece of the most elaborate financial architecture ever constructed. And like all human constructions, it's temporary. Thanks for watching and uncovering the shadow of money. If this opened your eyes to how the system really works, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden mechanisms of power. Do you think the dollar will still be dominant in 20 years' time? Or are we living through the beginning of the end?